Ahead and get started. Good evening, Castro Valley families, stakeholders in the audience. We are welcoming you to our first K through 3 Science Informational Night. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Nia Rashichi. I am the Director of Elementary Education from Ed Service Department for Castro Valley, and we're excited to be here tonight with you. We know that there have been lots of questions as we have started this new distance learning year, school year, and some specific questions around science. And so we thought we would have two informational nights, one tonight for K-3 science, and then tomorrow night we will have one for 4th and 5th grade science. So again, my name is Nia Rashichi, and I'm going to ask two of my colleagues to introduce themselves so the folks know who is here tonight.
My name is Lauren Bayaki. I am the K-12 Science TOSA for the district, teacher on special assignment, and get to work closely with Nia and our two science specialists.
All right, Charles?
My name is Charles Reynesse. I am a 2007 California Teacher of the Year, a 2008 Presidential Award winner for excellence in math and science teaching, and I have the privilege of being the K-3 science specialist for the district.
Thank you. Thank you to Lauren and Charles for helping to make tonight happen. They have been hard at work this over the summer and into the beginning of the school year, really getting ready to provide an excellent science program for our students. So I want to say up front before we get into the presentation is that we are going to be recording this session. And so that if some of our families couldn't be here tonight, they'd certainly be able to see the recording after the fact. We will be posting the recording to our district website and to our Distance Learning COVID-19 website, as well as to our science website, so that our families will have easy access to where in a couple of different places. We will also ask you to hold your questions until after the presentation. That will help us because we think that some of the questions that you have will be answered during the actual presentation. And so if you can bear with us and go through the presentation, then we will ask for any questions and answer additional questions at that time towards the end of the presentation. So Lauren and Charles, I think I covered what we needed to.
I just want to let people know there's a tiny URL. If you'd like the presentation, you can type in that tiny URL /K3CVUSD. I also put the link to the presentation in the Q&A, so you can just click on that link. There's some helpful links to the websites for the science specialist there too, so you might want to have access to these slides.
All right, so without further ado, thank you, Lauren. Let's see, Mr. Reynesse, can you please go ahead and start with our presentation?
Yes, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. These are extraordinary times, and the program that we put together, I think, meets the challenge of this time, and it's one that requires and is grateful for parent participation. So we'll start with the components of the program. And well, first of all, a quote to get us going. This is Mr. Rogers. You know, when I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news, and my mother would say to me, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are willing to help." And that has been true in the development of this program. It's been true throughout, and it's been my goal to be a helper during this time. And we created this program specifically to help students not only learn science, but also to learn to read, to improve their reading skills, because we just do not want children to fall behind in their reading skills. So the next slide talks about the components of the science program. The most important part is the playlist, and the playlist is a series of 5 slides. It's a deck of 5 slides. And each of the slides kind of brings the student deeper and deeper into the topic. We also have a website where I write at least once every 2 weeks, if not more, a little note to, I call it Dear Scientists. But the website contains all the playlists for each grade level. in fact, let me just open it up real quickly and I'll show you. So on the website, there are tiles here, and you can just click into the tile to go to your child's page. So for example, if we're going to a second grade page, you could click on that. That would take you to the page, and this is the current playlist. And so you can click on the link, it'll open it up. It gives the due date, it gives key learning goals. So while I'm here, I'd like to also show a couple other things. This is how second and third graders access their live labs. They show up at 11:30, and at 11:30, they click on the button and they get admitted to the live labs. I also record, I post the past playlist. So if your child has missed a playlist, they can go back and click on one of these links and make up the playlist. And then on each of the pages for second and third grade who have live labs, the kindergarten and first grade do not have live labs, but I also post a summary of the live lab. So I just present the lesson to my computer and I just record it and put it up here. So we have summaries of some of the live labs here. So that's the website. And the Tci Journal is a paperback workbook, and that is where all the student work is collected. So on the playlist, it'll say, read these pages on slide 3. That's usually where that will take place. And then on slide 4 and slide 5, students will be asked to do specific workbook pages. They do not have to do other workbook pages. Just the ones that are indicated on the playlist. The TCI account has caused the greatest confusion because in order to access some of the links that we put on the playlist, for example, if there's a phenomenon that we want students to observe and it's a TCI phenomenon, then there's a link on the playlist to that phenomenon. But if you click it and TCI is not already opened, then it will ask you to sign in. And you already your child already has an account, and so you can't sign in there. So the TCI account, you can access it through the waffle, which are those 9 dots up in the top right corner where we house all the Castro Valley Unified School District applications. So if you click on it and you go down and open up TCI and just leave that link open. You don't have to go into TCI, because if you do, there's a whole world of things that you can do, and I'm not asking students to do all that. What I want them to do is just open up that link, return to their playlist, and then the links will work. So we have these playlists which cite journal entries and link to TCI activities. And then at the end of each playlist is an exit ticket, K through third grade. And the exit ticket will have about 4 or 5 simple questions to answer. And it's our way of tracking student participation. And so when students complete the work, they fill out the exit ticket and it's submitted automatically. The TCI journals, when they are complete, they will be collected. And this is where we really need some parent help, because when your child is doing the work in the journal, it's really important for them to get some feedback. But I have 2,000 students, and it would just be an impossibility to be collecting the journals and passing them back out and so forth. And so my tips for parents working with students on the journal is to understand that we're looking for growth over time. Growth over time, which means I don't want to correct every spelling error, every mistake in thinking. I think probably the best thing a parent can do is to support the effort of their children as they work through the TCI journal. Just support the effort. Did they write incomplete sentences? Ask them to explain their thinking. So rather than correcting a particular piece of work, instead say, well, what do you mean by that? What do you think all plants need? And just have a conversation with them. So the exit ticket will be filled out at the end. Live labs are a really important part of this program, because the live lab is an opportunity for me to help children understand the nature of science and to develop scientific thinking. The model that we're using is one where we base it on phenomenon. Now, not every lesson that I do will have phenomenon, but the basic scientific method that I'm teaching children starts with a phenomenon, something that they can observe. And from that observation, we ask questions. So we observe something like a beetle is sticking to my finger, and then we ask questions. Why is the beetle sticking to my finger? What's causing it to stick to my finger? And after we ask the questions, then we just make up an answer. We construct explanations based on what we already know. So we come up with ideas. Well, maybe there's some hooks on the beetle's feet. Maybe there's something sticky on the beetle's feet. We come up with explanations. So once we come up with the explanations, then we have to see if our explanations are true. And that's where we design our investigations. So those early explanations are sort of hypotheses, but they're important because they build on prior knowledge. They're based on prior knowledge, and they guide the development of our investigations. So then we try to figure out, well, how can we figure this out? What can we do? And then we design an investigation. It might be as simple as putting the beetle feet under a microscope and looking at them. And then after we've conducted the investigation, we collect evidence, and then we argue from evidence. You know, we look at our evidence and ask ourselves, or maybe critique one another, or think about, how does the evidence support the claim that we're making? You know, that maybe we think that there are hooks on the beetle's feet. Well, how does the evidence support that? And what have we learned? Did we learn something more? And then layered across all of that are the cross-cutting concepts of science. Things like patterns, things like systems. And so we'll often look and think about things in a broader context, because if we think about a beetle sticking to my finger, there's more to it than just the beetle. There's also my finger. And so then we can gather evidence. For example, we can watch the beetle and its feet don't stick to my fingernail, and the beetles can't climb out of a smooth, hard plastic container. And so we can gather more evidence and realize that there's a system here. There's the beetle and all its legs, and there's my finger and the material my finger is made out of, that all work together to help that beetle cling to my finger. So the live labs give me an opportunity to do some science with the kids, do some activities. I have access to digital microscopes, and I have my webcam, and it's just a really, really fun and engaging time for me, and I hope so for the kids.
And Reynesse, just to make sure that folks know that you're going through the different components, and then in the next couple of slides, you'll actually see the playlist. You'll actually see a little bit more of detail. You'll actually see where the waffle is for the TCI account, so that you're kind of modeling. Right now, I know you're walking them through the different components.
Right. It's a little abstract just seeing dots on the screen, but we'll get there. So let me show you the next slide. We'll just move on. Well, I have office hours, and they're on each grade level page on my website. So the next slide is really the slide that every playlist opens with. It always opens with a question that comes from TCI. It's our driving question. There's a video introduction. There's an engaging picture, and there's a look, notice, and wonder. And so when you click on the website, you'll see the front page of the playlist, and there'll be a link to it. Playlists take 2 weeks to complete, but they're not 2 weeks worth of work. But we give students 2 weeks to do that work. And how a student paces that is really up to the family. Once you get comfortable with the format of the playlist, it's not going to change, and you'll fall into an easy groove as we go along. So the first page is the guiding question. And again, it's just to get children interested It's a discussion page, something that you might talk about with your children. The second page isn't listed here. This is slide 3. The second page is the phenomenon. And the phenomenon is just a page like the first page, just gets children engaged in something. So there will be some sort of picture for the kids to look at. For example, if we're looking at what plants need, there might be a picture of an unhealthy plant and a healthy plant, and students will be asked to figure out why one is healthy and one is not. Can you identify the healthy plant? That sort of thing. So it's just engaging with the phenomenon. The real work of the playlist is introduced on slide 3. And there, in the lower grades, I provide the pages to be read, and then there's also a read along with me. So my recommendation is that students read along with me, and then they try to read the pages on their own. And so this slide is just about reading, getting into the text. There's a must watch on the choice board. So there's a choice board too on slide 3 always. And in this first square is a must do. And so here we have students visiting an animal shelter. Now, if a student clicks this without opening up TCI first, it will ask them to log in, and they won't be able to log in from that warning window. So if that happens, and it happens to me, because you forget, you just get into the slide and you forget. So what you do is you just open up a new tab, go to the 9-dot waffle, go down to TCI, click on it, and then come back and click on the link and it'll work. And so there is a must do on the choice board, not much of a choice, but then there are 3 activities that your students can choose to do at least one of. And so there'll be 3 activities here. So that's where we first really get into the TCI Journal, and these pages are to be read in the journal. In the upper grades, in grades 2 and 3, I have links to the website so they could access the website. And if your students speak Spanish, you can go to TCI and read in the TCI website, and it will automatically translate the text into Spanish, or it will read the text to your child, but I read it and I think I'm better than the text, even though I make mistakes. At least it's a human voice and it makes a connection between myself and your child. And so that's why I really want to have your child listen to the readings, because that's a way for me to connect with your children. So that's the learn about it section of the slideshow. The next page is the practice it. And the practice it has usually a continuation of the exploration, sort of the investigation. So visiting an animal shelter. So I have the link repeated here because there's work that references it again. So here they would look at this again, and then they would do these pages in their TCI journal. Sometimes there'll be a lesson where it doesn't translate over from instruction by a classroom teacher to something that's done virtually. And in that case, I've built a drop and drag activity. And what that is, it's a Google slide that your child can make a copy of and open it. And then usually they can manipulate objects on the slide and put them where they belong. So sometimes you'll see one of those here. Then it'll say reread page 26 and do page 27 and reread. And so the rereading is really important. I want children to, when they write and when they read, to realize that, you know, usually it's not the first, you know, it's not a one-time thing. It takes several readings to really understand the text. And the journals are your children's journals to keep. And so I strongly recommend that they begin to use some of the nonfiction reading strategies that they're learning in their classroom, maybe underlining topic sentences, you know, circling details that will help them understand. So they can write in the text, they can annotate it, they can label drawings if they want, they can do, you know, the text is theirs to do and use as a tool. And then the next slide is the last slide. And there's a show what you know. Sometimes this is a drop and drag. Sometimes it's just do a page in the book because they also, in the journal, because they also have a show what you know section. And then there's an exit ticket. And the exit ticket, you click the exit ticket. Excuse me, this doesn't go back to, this isn't a live link. So there's an exit ticket which takes you to a Google form. And there's 4 or 5 questions. And then you hit submit and it gets automatically collected and sorted. And so we're able to track progress. Let me look over here. So this is an example of an exit ticket. You know, which animal is drinking water is the kindergarten one. And they'd click it and be able to do it. Okay. So that's the basic format of the slides. And then here's the TCI workbook, and that was distributed by the classroom teachers. And this is where all the assignments go. You don't need to copy, take pictures of the workbook and send them in to us. All the work goes here in the journal, and then we'll collect the journals at the end of the units. So logging in to TCI. The way you log into TCI is you go to the 9 dots, and then you open a new tab. There's a plus sign at the top of the screen. You open up a new tab. You go to the 9 dots. You click down to TCI, and then you open it. But you don't have to do anything more. You don't have to go into TCI, because if you do, you'll see online workbook pages, and you might think that you have to do those. And the only thing your child has to do is what's explicitly stated in the playlist. The playlist says, do this page in your workbook, and that's what you do. We don't do any work in TCI. We're using it as a resource. It's our district program. It's guiding our scope and sequence, but it's being used for its resources. You know, if it has pictures of phenomenon, we want your children to see that phenomenon. Okay, next slide. The live labs are about 20 minutes long. This one happens to be on biotic and abiotic, and we're looking at environmental changes and looking at systems. And so this would be an example, but it's a 20-minute live lesson with me. And we go through the scientific process or a part of it. In this case, we're looking at systems, and it's phenomenon based. So, you know, we're talking about forest fires and how forest fires change the environment. So when we think about environments, we want to think about the living and the non-living and start to think about all the parts, not just what we can see. And that will help your children, because it's one thing to say we want critical thinkers, but we also have to teach children how to think critically, which means to open up their thinking into looking for patterns, looking at systems, looking for cause and effect. And those are the 3 cross-cutting concepts that we'll be focusing on this year. Also, live lab videos will be available on the website. And so on the 2nd grade website and the 3rd grade page of the website, excuse me, it's not a different website, it's those pages on my website. I will record not a live lab, but what I do is as soon as I've taught them all, I sit down and teach it again to a pretend class, so that the gist of the lesson is up there for students who happen to be absent or who want to go back and redo something. Today in 2nd grade, we were looking at how water flows through plants from the roots to the stems, because there's this problem. The energy is in the sky and the water's in the ground. And we did a really fun activity with markers and paper towel, making a little flower, and the water flows up the paper model, and then the colored ink from the markers colors the flower at the end and makes the leaf green. And so some kids might want to redo that at home, and so they can always come back and look at the live lab and see how we did something to do at home. Office hours for kindergarten and first grade are on Fridays from 9 to 10 a.m. for kindergarten. And again, you just access it through the website, and I leave the link open. So you just push the button and join the conversation. Same thing for first grade. You just go onto the website, go to your child's first grade page at between 10 and 11, click the link, and you're there. And so just to reiterate the science playlist process, step one, you go to the website and you open up the playlist. Step two, just if you don't do this right away, you'll be reminded to, because they'll ask you to log in and you can't log in and you'll be frustrated. So you have to always go up to the waffle to log in. So right away, you want to log in. Step three, complete the readings, the writing, and the activities on the playlist slides, and then turn in the exit ticket on slide 5. That's the general scope of things. And the first 2 slides are very general. They're just getting kids into the topic. The meat of the playlist is on slide 3, where there are the readings and the must do, which is usually the phenomenon from the program, the TCI program, and then the 4th page and the 5th page. So those last 3 pages are where the meat of the program lies, and it's laid out, and it's purposeful that on slide 3 that your child does the reading, and then again on slide 4 they reread, because I want children to read twice. And that's the program. So at this point, we'll open it up to the questions in the chat. And
so Charles, the first question is about Live Labs and how soon the recordings are posted if a child misses a Live Lab.
If a child misses a Live Lab, the recordings are posted. I have 2nd grade Live Labs on Monday and Tuesday. So by Tuesday night, they're there. Wednesday and Thursday, by Thursday night, they're there. Sometimes they're there after Monday or after Wednesday, depending upon how the day goes, but right away. I put them up right away. And also, if a child misses a Live Lab, I think it's important that you shoot off an email to the teacher. You can shoot off an email to me, and then we could maybe work out a way to join another Live Lab if it fits your child's schedule.
The next question is about the Tci Journal. I don't know if you have one there with you that you could show.
Sure.
Parents. They wanted to see it.
This is the Tci Journal. This happens to be the 2nd grade journal, and then we reference the pages. So for example, today, one of the activities that the students do, I don't know if this can be seen, but it's a Venn diagram. It's a Venn diagram, and we did an activity that was similar but different to help them because, sorry, I'm holding up to the wrong spot. But this is kind of like a Venn diagram. These are the 2 circles. This is the overlap, but it's my way of doing it. And so the children, if I think there's something particularly difficult in the Tci Journal, I will introduce it briefly in the Live Lab. But this is the journal, and it's paperback. The kids can write in it, they can underline in it and use it as a tool.
There's a question about office hours, clarifying if there's office hours for 2nd grade and 3rd grade, and what is done during office hours.
During office hours, I haven't really been holding office hours for 2nd and 3rd grade. So if parents contact me, I've been really trying to answer every email within an hour or 2. But I will post some office hours. I think I can certainly do office hours after 2:30, after my last lesson. I can have a half-hour office hour and leave it open and I'll put that on my website.
There was a couple questions about the exit tickets and how to double check if it's been submitted. And if you click on the link on slide 5 to the exit ticket, it should say if a response has been submitted or not.
Yes, there was an issue with the first couple because I didn't know how to automatically have Google provide a receipt. So exit tickets in the future, I hope the next one works that way. You should get a receipt for it, but they're all collected. A few parents have asked if their exit ticket was received, and they were. The most important thing about the exit ticket is it has to be done on the Chromebook through your child's student account, because they're all collected by email address. And so it's automatically collected. But there should be a receipt from now on that lets you know that it's been received, but they've all been received. If you hit submit, it's been collected.
Great. And then could you just talk about office hours for kindergarten and first grade, what those are meant for?
Yes, office hours for kindergarten and first grade are primarily, therefore, that's time to answer parent questions. I have had a few opportunities to do some science with kids that happen to show up with their parents. They've asked some questions, and I've had stuff on my desk that I've shared. But the office hours for kindergarten and first grade are really to help parents. It's not a live lab for kindergartners. There's just too many, and I think there's other programs and classes that students are in at that time to make it so that we can have something for everyone at that time. So the office hours for kindergarten and first grade are just for parents to get their questions asked, for me to walk through something with them, to show them how to do something, that sort of thing.
There was a question about the playlist and when it's due, and I think we're in the second week of the playlist, is that correct?
Yes, we're in the second week of the playlist, and some teachers, I think, have sent out sort of pages for their students to do, but the best thing to do is to always go to the website, go to the grade level page of your students, and there is the playlist with the due date, with the most important concepts that the students are to get from that playlist. And so the date is there. But the playlists are on a 2-week cycle, except for the very first one, which was just an introduction. They're on a 2-week cycle. And so the second playlist is due this Friday. And then on Monday, there will be a new playlist up, and the cycle will repeat. But you can always go to the website, and that should be bookmarked, because that's where the playlists are housed. That's where extra activities are housed. For example, I was doing an activity with second graders that I thought would be really cute for the kindergarten and first graders. So I posted a special little extra activity on the website for kindergarten and first graders to do, because I just felt like I needed to do something with them. So the website's important. It has a Dear Scientist letter every week from me. It lists the playlist, it lists the assignments, it lists the office hours, it lists live lab times. It's your one-stop shop for K-3 science.
So there's another question about when they need to turn in the science workbook, the Tci Journal.
Yes, the TCI journals will be collected at the end of the unit, and I don't have a time frame for that. I mean, I could give you a rough, time frame. The third grade TCI journal will be collected earlier because they have 4 journals to work through this year, and we're not going to be doing every single lesson, but the TCI journals will be collected then. Also, I know that at the beginning of the year, it's going to take a while for all the families to get on board. You know, it takes a bit to get something like this going. And so if your child has not participated fully in this and you're feeling behind, my recommendation is to go back to the grade level page, click on a past due playlist, and work through it in an abbreviated way. Do the readings, do the workbook pages, and then do the exit ticket. And it won't take that long. And while I've collected scores already, the scores come on a spreadsheet, and I just copy the column and put them into another spreadsheet, I will re-input all the scores for the first several playlists because I know people are catching up. I know people need extra time. There's no penalty for being late because there has been, I work with 2,000 students and 80 teachers, and it's a challenge to get that information out as clearly as possible. So there is no penalty. Our goal is to get every child to do as much as they can because we don't want children falling behind. And it's the consistent work over time that's going to build your child's academic skills. And so I encourage families to catch up. It won't take that long. The readings, for example, take no more than about 6 or 7 minutes. So the catch-up period will not be long, and I hope everyone will, and there'll be no penalty for late exit tickets for the first several playlists, if ever.
Charles, the next question is about report cards. Maybe that's one that Nia can answer. Is there any grade that will be given out by the science teacher on the report cards?
So I think Mr. Nez can answer that. We've talked, I believe we've talked about that with both Lynn and Charles, how we're going to do.
Yeah, my understanding is that we're giving a participation grade in science. And so we're measuring participation primarily through the exit tickets. And then we're working on a way to collect the journals and to just make sure that students have participated. I've talked to a number of people, and I mean, there will be some people who will only do what is assigned and what is collected and what is graded. But the effort that I put into this program and the intent of this program is to help every child achieve not only a science education, but to improve their reading. And these are extraordinary times. And so it's important to do the work because it's the consistent doing of the work. It's the consistent reading. It's the consistent practice that's going to build your child's academic muscle. And that's what we're about. And so, you know, we'll collect these journals and we'll look through them, but this is really a program based on doing the right thing.
And then there's a question about the Google Meet links. Will those stay the same for the entire year?
That I don't know about. For right now, I feel pretty comfortable with the way the lessons are going. But I do have some students. There are advantages to Zoom over Google Meet, and I may change at some point. My preference is to kind of keep things the same for a while and not change things until we've really given things a good try, you know, because the program has parts. And if for example, if someone, I just feel it's important that we keep things as consistent as possible so that there's not a learning curve that has to keep being repeated. But if the advantages of Zoom outweigh Google Meet, I might make a change. It will be announced in advance, and hopefully, and the links will be put up just like the other ones. But for right now, I have no plans to do that.
There's a question about CVVPE. Do they also do work in TCI?
I can answer that based on our conversations, Nia. My understanding is that, and the work I did this summer, this is district work, and the playlists are district playlists. So all of what I do is available to teachers in the CVVPE program. They might take my video introduction off. They might add their own exit ticket, but TCI is a district program.
And then there was a question about the 3rd grade playlist. What pages have to be done? So maybe if you could just put the 3rd grade playlist.
Yeah, I think maybe what I could do is, how do I click? Let me click back up to, this. And so I'm going to click on the website and just kind of show exactly how, as a parent, I would want you to walk through this. So you click on the website. And so there are some links here, help, click on it. There's some help there. How and why do I log into TCI? Click that. How do we work through a playlist? Click here. So there are some links there. If you go to the resource page of the website, the scientific inquiry that I talked about is there. And some of the links, again, that I just talked to. The K-3 Parent Night slideshow is up here. So what you're looking at is here. How to work through a playlist. They're all there. But let's say if you're a 3rd grade, you go to the home page, you go to 3rd grade, and there's the playlist. And this one was on environments. So then you click on the playlist. And then you start at the beginning with your child does this, or maybe you do it with your child, but hopefully your child says, how do environments change? And then they're looking at a big change here. And then they'll say, look, I see a line of fire burning. I notice plants and trees burning. Will the plants grow back and the animals return? And then they can click here. And if they do that, there's a video introduction from me. That's the first slide. The second slide has the same picture, but a different question. What changes have you seen to the environment around you? So that is a little bit broader. I hike all the time. I see changes in the new developments in the hillsides, all kinds of the smoke in the air. That's a change to our environment. So that's the phenomenon page. And there's really nothing to do there. On this particular one, you can click on the picture to watch the fire burning. And then we get to the 3rd page. And it says, now this is a little different from the elementary grade, the kindergarten, 1st grade, because I do have the TCI. But it says here, in your TCI journal, read pages, and these are the pages. You may also click here to read with me, or you can click here to go online. But if you do that, TCI has to be open. So then, this is the choice board. And so there's different things to watch and do. Here's where the work comes in. You come here, and it says, do page 64, 66, and 67. And then you can click here to get the cards that will help you. And then it says reread page 69 and do page 70. This is the page. The 4th page will always have the work to do. So that's where you go to get that work. Reread pages 74 and 75 and do page 76 and so forth. And then the next page has another activity to do, and then there's the exit ticket to do. So that's how it goes.
So the only other question is specifically for Nia, and I don't really understand. Christina, send the link to parents that registered or all of their students?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what that question means. If it's for the presentation, we are recording this presentation, and we are going to post it on the district website under COVID-19 distance learning. resources, as well as on the science specialist website. Hopefully that'll take care of it. If not, can you please email Mr. Reynesse, and then we can get the presentation to you in that way. I'm assuming that's what that's asking for in somehow, some way, if we could email it out to all the parents that are participating, but we don't have the collection of all the folks that are here tonight. We have about, we had at the height, I think we had around 150 parents that were online tonight for the presentation. So let's ask one more time if we have any other questions.
Somebody asked about the word journal versus workbook, and it's the same thing. It's the TCI workbook is kind of a more, you know, general term for the paperback workbook that there's some writing answers in. It's also called a journal. I think TCI calls it a journal, but we call it a workbook because it's a more familiar term.
So I'll ask one more time for questions, just to make sure we do enough wait time. Okay, and I'll remind folks, we want to thank you very much for coming. Our purpose was to really make sure that you got some really good, solid information from Mr. Reynesse in regards to our K-3 program. We had questions. Sometimes those questions pop up on Facebook. Sometimes they pop up on from our teachers, general classroom teachers, and they pass those along. So we thought this would be an awesome opportunity for families to join us tonight. So again, last thing, we are recording this presentation. We will post it on the district website under our COVID-19 distance learning resources. We will also post it on the science website tomorrow evening. At 4 o'clock, we will have another presentation by our other science specialist for 4th and 5th grade. So if you have students that are at that grade level, please join us again. We look forward to that. And again, thank you for joining us tonight. And without further ado, I think we will call that a presentation, end our recording, Miss Lauren, and we'll see you tomorrow, folks. Good night. Thank you very much.